ton papa. Sans même devoir lui parler, il sait ce qui ne va pas. Ah sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Ça doit faire au moins 1000 fois que j'ai compté mes doigts. Hey. Dis-moi où est ton papa? Sans même devoir lui parler, il sait ce qui ne va pas. Ah sacré papa, dis-moi où es-tu caché? Ça doit faire au moins 1000 fois que j'ai compté mes doigts.
What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening, afternoon, pre-noon, no matter where you are in the world. I'm Hassan Piker. This is the HasanAbi broadcast coming to you live from sunny California, Los Angeles, stolen Tongva territory. We're alive, and I hope all the boys, girls, and Emmys are having a fantastic one because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. Today is Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs. It's Wednesday, hump day. You already know what it is. You already know what it ain't. We're alive, and it is late. It's 3/18, Wednesday, March 18, 2026, 2 days out from going to Cuba. And we have a lot going on. We have a lot going on in the world, and I'm going to get right into it. But this is a part of the broadcast where I tell you about my personal news, about what's going on in the world of HasanAbi Piker in between the time period where I press the stop streaming button and press the start streaming button. So help me God, that's what I'ma do. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, MBs, we're live. We're live. So unprofessional to be late for work. Well, there's a reason for why I'm late for work, and that's because
I'm gay and Lebanese.
Yes, we were shooting the Fear End podcast. That's why I'm late, and we had an incredible episode with Laverne Cox, who I found out is a major HasanAbi head, like straight up watches all the Fear End episodes and stuff, like, which was insane. She is the most woke. Oh my God. She is so, it was great. It's so incredible. I'm very excited. That episode is going to be an absolute nut house. It's going to be a major banger. Oh my Lord. It's going to be so sick. So, without further ado, that's basically all I've been doing. I've been working on the Cuba trip, working on all that stuff, which is part of the reason why I'm late, or not really. We were just shooting the podcast, but like you guys know I'm a chud-ass loser, got no fucking life. You already know. And yes, I did the Patreon with her as well, and it was awesome. You guys flirted per Austin show. We flirted a little bit afterwards. It's not for you. It's not for your eyes to see. But yes, Operation Epstein Fury, day 18, Strait of Hormuz still closed. Israel hits gas fields. Energy markets blow up. Trump wants Cuba. Grid is back. Illinois PAC primary results and more. 2 days out from Cuba. Get in now. www.twitch.tv/HasanAbi. You already know. I'm going right into it because obviously we got so much news to cover. She wants some HasanAbi. Yeah, but when she was flirting with Austin at the GLAAD Awards, I didn't realize it was I thought it was just like one of those things where like she thinks I'm hot. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people in the industry that are just like, I kind of know a little bit about Hasan and what he stands for, and he's woke and he's hot. Like, it's not like that. Like, she is a straight up HasanAbi head. Like, she is a parasocialist general. Okay, she's a part of the parasocialist brigades, and she is the brigadier admiral on it. Yeah, and also a Majority Report watcher as well. It was fantastic. So. I didn't even send the meme. How the fuck did you get that? Yeah, don't worry about it. Anyway, play the clip. Neat context, Unc. LNG and helium production is going to come crashing down. Yeah, I know. Don't worry. We're going to talk about all of that. I feel so bad for the Qatari people. Like, they're like, I feel the worst out of the Gulf states, like the ones that are getting hammered the most unjustly. Because like every single one of the Gulf states has played a role, including Qatar to a certain degree, as far as like this indecent, unholy allegiance with Western supremacist forces. But like Qatar is the one, and I'm not just saying that because I've been there. I'm not just saying that because like, you know, the pearl of the Gulf obviously funds my entire operation. That's not the reason why I'm saying this. But Qatar is the one Gulf state that literally has a much better relationship with Iran and has to have a much better relationship with Iran, partially because they share a gas field, right? They have the same, they tap into the same natural supply, and they literally have a collaborative partnership with the state of Iran. Out of all the Gulf nation states, like it's the one that unironically does have to play ball with Iran, which is part of the reason why a lot of people, Mike from Taiwan, W Raid, Michael from Taiwan. Yeah. Do they share like Mr. Burns in Springfield Public School? Nobody glazes Qatar like Tucker Carlson glazes Qatar. Yeah, I mean he might be, you know, a little bit more involved in the finance side there, but Bahrain is the pearl of the Gulf. Everyone knows this, bro. No, Qatar is the pearl of the Gulf. Oman is the Switzerland. Did you have a good morning? I had a great morning. I love shooting a good ass podcast episode. When we have a great guest on, it just fucking gets me excited. Massive hit on Aramco, Saudi Arabia. Yes, we're gonna get into situation monitoring in a second. Okay, we are gonna monitor. We're gonna monitor the situation. This is Laverne talking about you. Oh, here it is.
I know that Hasan is someone everyone wants.
Okay, this can't get back to her, but she's so fucking hot. It's crazy. Anyway, and when I found out that she's 53 years old, I could not fucking believe it.
But and so a man who streams 8 hours a day probably does not have the time and attention that I need. But I would.
Yes, bro. Yes. She's here, bro. No, she left. She just left the house, so I can say it. Isn't that crazy? No, that's like on a different level, bro. That is like unfucking believable. I thought she was like my age. I thought she was my age, bro. I thought she was like maybe not even older than me. I thought she could be my age or younger. Is witchcraft. Is actually unironically witchcraft.
At least vigorously flirt with him.
Yes, yeah. We're gonna let that happen, and we're gonna
low cut.
Love, please.
But like, what's his type? Like,
you. So, dress to impress as you are now.
I'm an actress, so I can, you know, for an evening, I have to ultimately be myself. But
of course,
you know, I can role play.
Absolutely.
For the right man, but I don't need to do.
Yeah, bro. Honestly, she said black don't crack. Yes, that is part of it. But I think HRT also. Oh my God, no wonder that fucking Brian guy is like steadily dosing himself with estrogen. Cause holy moly, it is crazy, dude. It is crazy. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. I still don't believe it. Like you ever hear something that a person says and you're just like, that's not real. And it just like kind of washes over you a little bit. This is that. Like when she says she was 53, I could not believe it. I still don't believe
until
it.
He's earned it.
I love that. And you don't need to. He's going to dedicate 2 hours exclusively to you.
That, yes. I mean, I'm just like, I mean, in theory, it would be great to like date him, but I'm like the
T literally ages you. It's true. It really does. That's why the fucking Trent twins are like, they look like they're 50 years old, even though they're like 20. You know? Libs on the timeline. having a normal one. What is this? Real Donald Trump at Pete Hexit. You missed a boat. Yeah, I mean, this person is like a straightforward fascist, right? So who gives a fuck about what they have to say? We already know. Like, yeah, okay. You're annoyed by Kate Willett, so you want the fucking fascist government to assassinate her as she's on a fucking humanitarian aid mission. Like, it's just you're a goddamn sociopath. Like, fuck you. You know, you're a fucking freak. You're a freak ass bitch for saying this shit. Ugh. Anyway, whatever. Fuck them. I don't even think these people deserve any fucking attention. What's happening on the Dan Lebatard show talking about Cuba? Oh, I saw this. I need to hit my boy up. I think that's the one area we finally found it, because I love Dan. I love Dan Lebatard, but he is Cuban. He is from Florida. He has a very different attitude about it than I do. And I want to actually have a conversation with him after I go to Cuba and come back. First in private, and then maybe even in public. But yeah, it's definitely something I saw, and I think a lot of people are very frustrated because he has a very liberal audience, very progressive audience. And yeah, look, it's not, I don't want to do this thing where I'm just like, fuck you. Cause like, he is a very kind person. Okay. He's a very kind person. He's a very sincere person. He's a very nice person. He has a lot of great opinions in general. But like, clearly this is an area of disagreement, but I think there could be a constructive conversation here. I obviously it's like, it's personal, right? I mean, he's Cuban. It's personal. So it's I would say it's a blind spot. I think he would say I'm being a silly little fake LARPing revolutionary who doesn't understand the plight of the Cubans that come from the government and its mismanagement or something like that. But, never give up on the unks. They have the most agitprop to detangle. Yeah, it's all good. And I think we'll have a conversation about that. But like I said, you can lean into the empathy of someone like Dan and have him, regardless of... I've been clipping you for more than a month, putting in 8 hours a day at least. I was on my way to hit 400 to 500,000 views per month on YouTube, but I got shadow banned. Now only 200 to 400 views per video. YouTube support refused to engage with me. Is there anything you or the team can do to help me get in contact with actual creator support? I don't know, but I wonder if that's like a systemic thing that's going on with like YouTube just actively taking out my fan channel somehow. Sorry, I don't feel bad for the Cuban diaspora that Castro and Che Guevara took away their family slaves. Like, look, dude, not every single fucking person in the Cuban diaspora, it comes from that background, okay? I don't know Dan's personal involvement, but like, if you understand the history, the revolutionary history of Cuba, you have to also understand that like there are a lot of people, especially the recent comers, that aren't coming from that background. Like the initial people who came to the United States of America that literally aligned with the American government, the CIA, the mafia, and all these nefarious forces, gangster capitalism of the highest order, certainly had a lot of involvement, a lot of financial entanglements, and were frustrated. But you can't say that about like second generation people. You can't say that about, Also, there's a lot of chuds too. You know what I mean? The irony, of course, is you don't know the irony, of course, is you don't get to hear from like real Cubans who still fucking real Cubans who still live in Cuba, right? That's the thing. Like, you just don't hear from them at all. Anyway, we'll monitor the situation. We'll get to the Cuba portion of the broadcast in a little bit. Like I said, 2 days from now, I will be in Havana, and
welcome to the program. We're going to focus in the next few minutes on a story that's been breaking, and that is the attack on the South Pars gas field in Iran.
Yes, my goat, Jeremy Corbyn, is coming. Now we can openly say it. Yes. There's a lot of politicians coming, a lot of activists coming. People sending me the Cesar Chavez sexual assault allegations. You're barking up the wrong tree, buddy. Okay. Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know if I'll have time to cover that. Okay. Like, Majority Report mentioned your Cuba trip and wants in. Are you going to meet up with Boy in Cuba? Yes. Will you do sightseeing there too? Yes, I will. I will be doing some sightseeing. Your bubble is mental. So are you wannabe Hollywood star? What are you even doing in life for humanity? You fuck. What do you think is your purpose for humanity? Your bubble is mental. So are you wannabe Hollywood star? Dog, this is perhaps one of the worst weeks to say this. Like, I'm literally going to fucking Cuba with, on a humanitarian aid mission that we've been fucking organizing for like the past 2 months. Like, you're barking up the wrong tree, but it's like the worst possible tree to be barking up at the worst possible time to be barking up this tree, Che Guevara, you want to be? Yeah, I'm not. I would never. I could never be. I couldn't be the fucking... I can be a fraction of the man that he was. I understand that. Do you like Che Guevara? Because I don't... Usually, in my experience, people that say stuff like this don't even fuck with Che Guevara, right? You a bum stealing money and making your audience of hate. Okay. The irony here, he is lionizing Che. I mean, I lionize Che, but it's funny because, like, I lionize him because he is a lion, okay? He is a man who has sacrificed everything, including his life, fighting the revolutionary cause, succeeding. He's brilliant. He's incredible. I love him. I will never be even a fraction of the man he was. If I can be the man that he was and is just as pinky by the time my life ends, then I will have accomplished my mission, right? I will have had tremendous impact, far more than I thought I ever could. But having said that, I don't think this guy likes Che Guevara. I think he's just saying that. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid. Che Guevara, I'm not even fit to polish his boots. It's true. What's your mission? Making more money, making more hate? Yeah. Famously, that's my mission. That's why I don't run any ads, and I'm entirely sponsored by voluntary subscriptions. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the people, for you, the people. I don't know why you would consider that to be theft. But I guess this guy does, but, didn't you just spend like 50 minutes talking about how to meet people with empathy, not hate? I did, but I don't think this guy heard that. You keep your audience of hate. If there is no drama, there is no viewers, and you know it. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you saying, are you considering like global affairs and geopolitical movements to be drama? Is that what you think is going on? Like going to, like, covering American imperialism is just drama? Is that what it is? Because, like, I've been doing this for years and years, right? Like, it's not, I'm glad that there's more people paying attention to it, but I was doing it when there was no one paying attention to it, and I will do it even in the future if no one pays attention to it, right? I didn't start the drama. If you consider, America and Israel fighting Iran, blowing up Iranian schools to be drama. No drama, no viewers. That's your whole concept. All of it. Politics, all MSNBC, TYT, all hate. Thrive to the hate to the other side. Got it. Anyway, thank you, Ultimate Weapon X, for the 5 gifted subs. All right, let's continue with the drame. Bro Mission TYT, that's a 40-year-old chatter. Raging Hoppa, thank you for the 15 gifted subs. Adding on to the drame. Hasan, will this wake up Trump's cattle midday futures? No, it won't. All right, let's continue. Trump is now at 100% approval.
You know, sometimes
There's no break in MAGA. Trump's approval of MAGA GOP is literally 100%. 90% of MAGA GOP approve of U.S. military action in Iran. Those who disapprove of Trump are not MAGA at this point. Importantly, MAGA makes up the same share of voters as it did when Trump won in 2024. We'll obviously talk about that. That's why I'm laughing when you say, like, will this wake up the hogs? Nothing will wake up the hogs. The hogs are in a cult. Okay. Closed presence. Thank you for the 20 gifted. Are you going to stream from Cuba? How is that going to work with the whole grid collapse? I'm bringing my own power. I'm bringing my own internet. I'm bringing my own gear. Okay. Anyway, let's start here. I'm an Afghan Moroccan girl that was raised Russian. I want to talk with you about things. Moved to Barcelona, Spain 2 years ago due to Holland being done with Dutch politics where I was born. Okay, cool. I don't take, like individual conversations like that. You know, there's 31,000 people in the stream with you.
This news coming to us from a news agency linked to the Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iran. It's reported the fire teams were dispatched to contain that blaze. South Pars is a portion of the world's largest natural gas field. It's shared by Iran and Qatar. The Qatari Foreign Ministry condemned the attack as dangerous and irresponsible. What affects one side of the field does have the potential to affect another. It's one big basin, and the two countries do liaise on how they manage it. And in response, Iran's issued evacuation orders for 5 energy facilities in the Gulf, in Saudi Arabia, the UAE and in Qatar. And as a result, there you've just seen on your screens, oil prices suddenly climbing again, topping $108 a barrel in early trading. That's up 5% on yesterday's prices. I've just been watching, in fact, as the indices turned red. The benchmark for UK gas price also rising by nearly 6%. Let's bring in our North America business correspondent, Samira Hussain. And the reason for that, not least the retaliation that Iran is promising, Samira, is because this gas field, it is one. And if there's a fire at one side, as I say, it potentially has an impact on the other side of the gas field.
Right. So the enormity of this kind of an attack, because it has such a cascading impact on a large swath of Iran's oil and gas reserves, it really could have quite a huge impact in terms of how much oil is getting out of Iran. Now, you couple that with already these statements by the international maritime organizations that is saying it is just far too dangerous to have any kind of military escort for these ships through the Strait of Hormuz. You're seeing an intense amount of pressure on oil prices, which is why you're seeing it go up to more than $108 a barrel. And depending on whether we see any kind of retaliation from Iran.
Do you think there's an off-ramp left? There's always an off-ramp. It's just entirely dependent on if America allows Israel to if America cuts Israel out of the equation, there's your off-ramp, right? The off-ramp will never happen as long as Israel is still leading the pack. I think Israel doing this unironically will create an off-ramp because like Israel, with collaboration with the American government, by the way, at least according to Barak, Israel's most loyal soldier, Ravid, Barak Unit 8200 Ravid, reported that this was in partnership. This strike on the Iranian gas fields was actually in partnership with the American side, or at least they informed the American side that they were going to do this, and they were not stopped, right? And for that reason, it leads me to believe that Israel is trying to get Iran to go up the escalation ladder and retaliate, which is, I suspect, already has happened. I don't know. I was on a podcast, so I don't know if they did. But like America might come out and say, we didn't authorize this, but as long as they don't actually stop Israel, or as long as they don't actually turn around and restrain Israel in some way, it's utterly irrelevant. And Iran, I suspect, is already striking back, which will absolutely melt the energy markets, because, you know, it's tit for tat. It's tit for tat. Israel doesn't want an off-ramp, and the faster America recognizes that, or the faster they understand that this is going to be punishing for them, the easier things will be. This is the goal of the Iranian government right now, which is to offer enough of a military deterrence going up the escalation ladder as they get hit over and over again, to literally strike at the heart of capital. Capitalism is very powerful. It's a domineering force. It's the hegemonic cultural attitude. It's the economic organization around the globe, right? But capitalism is also very weak at moments like this. It creates an opportunity for countries to engage in anti-imperialist acts by not just directly punishing people militarily, punishing troops militarily for invading their country, but also hitting the center of capital. And the Gulf assets sitting right there within striking distance of Iranian missiles creates a unique opportunity. And that's exactly what's going on. I mean, Iran did not do this up until this very moment, partially because they wanted to wait, partially because they thought, hey, you know, we're going to be restrained. As long as you don't hit our refinement processes, we won't hit the other refineries. But, you know, obviously there is a lot of I mean, there are targets that they could strike that they haven't struck thus far. But now that they've been hit, of course, Moin Rabbani has L takes on Iran. I don't think so. Israel has just bombed Iran's largest natural gas processing facility in the Bushehr province. Israel stated that it conducted this attack in full coordination with the United States. The attack is consistent with Israel's strategy of aiming to destroy not only Iran's military industries, but also its industrial base and its economy. Israel's objective is not regime change, but state collapse. In this particular case, there is, I believe, an additional motivation behind the Israeli attack. Iran has repeatedly indicated that if its energy infrastructure is attacked, this crosses a bright red line, and it will retaliate with attacks on energy infrastructure throughout the Persian Gulf. If Iran does indeed respond in this manner, the prospects of direct participation in this war by the Gulf Cooperation Council states, the GCC, increases significantly. This is exactly what Israel would like to see, and would also explain why the U.S., which previously counseled against such attacks, now supports them and participates in their execution. This attack is not only a demonstration of the U.S.-Israeli capabilities, but also of U.S.-Israeli strategic failure, and arguably of growing desperation as well. I think so. I think this is the correct analysis. I think the situation has gotten to, the situation is completely outside of the control of the Americans at this point, and they're actively trying to bring in other regional partners and even global partners to try to create the necessary diplomatic pressure against Iran, because they understand that they cannot open the Strait of Hormuz militarily. And as long as Iran can sit there and keep lobbing missiles at any ship that dares cross the Strait of Hormuz without getting the proper clearance from the Iranian side, it's closed. The Strait of Hormuz will remain closed. America cannot successfully attrit the Iranian ballistic missile capabilities, the Iranian drone capabilities. It's just not going to happen, right? And here we are, another massive escalation that will then have massive consequences after the Iranian retaliation that already started. Massive capital consequences, massive consequences in terms of the energy markets and the price of energy in general.
We can probably see those prices going up even higher.
Yeah, Germany's Friedrich Merz has been speaking in the last hour, Samira, saying that it's to everyone's detriment, this war, and that is reflected.
And yes, the secondary impact here that you also have to consider is that it is in Israel's best interest, at least in the short term and maybe in the long term, whatever their design is, to cripple the Gulf as well. So if Iran and the Gulf states are fighting amongst themselves, that's also an upper hand for Israel. Israel wants no Iran and a weakened Gulf, right? A weakened Gulf is much easier to dominate. A weakened Gulf is much easier to dominate. It actually boosts Israel's capabilities in the region. It actually makes Israel play a much larger role in the region. This is the reason why Israel is the unsinkable aircraft carrier in a resource-rich region that America has always placed a lot of emphasis on. Israel has expansionist goals, as we know, and as long as there's no political pushback whatsoever from the weakened Gulf states that are terrified, then Israel can do whatever the fuck it wants. And so this is a mutually beneficial situation, and I'm sure Iran knows this as well. That's part of the reason why Iran has been somewhat restrained in their retaliatory strikes. And that was until this very moment where they did not light the refineries on fire. But now who knows where this goes?
By this strike, because Iranian gas, which has been flowing to Iraq, has suddenly been suspended. So Iraq now suffering from presumably a gas shortage as a result of this. Everybody is affected in the energy markets by what is going on in that Gulf region.
Absolutely. And if you look at the impact, especially when you're looking at the Asia-European sort of trajectory in terms of getting things out of that Strait of Hormuz, you're seeing quite an intense amount of pressure. Now, we know that some Iranian oil is getting out to other countries, that the other countries have made individual agreements with Iran for their ships. So, for example, India has been able to get some stuff out of the Strait of Hormuz, but it's really an ad hoc. And so it might be alleviating a little bit of pressure for some countries. It's not the kind of blanket movement of goods that we saw before this war. And of course, the concern is that these energy prices, if they continue to climb like this, it could push the entire world into a recession. A global recession is very much possible.
Yeah, a lot of pressure coming from Washington, particularly on those NATO countries. I wonder if you could respond to this, Samira. We've just had this from Johnny Beale, our defence correspondent, who says John Healey, the defence secretary here, has had important discussions today with defence ministers from France, Germany, Italy and Poland on the Strait of Hormuz. He said that they'd discussed working with allies to reinforce regional security and protect British interests. But he's not giving any response to whether the Allies would send shipping to the Gulf. And according to President Macron, that's only going to happen when tensions are eased in that area. He's not going to send ships to the Gulf if there's still a hot war in place.
Well, absolutely. And I think that we've already heard from many of European countries saying exactly that they're not going to be going in to protect any vessels going through the Gulf region because it's frankly too dangerous. And we're seeing that international organizations are also saying that it's just frankly too dangerous. So what those discussions are is, it's interesting to know that they're having these discussions regionally amongst allies, but really the conversations need to be had with Iran in this case. I mean, there is a case to be made, as we've seen with other countries like India, who have made individual agreements with Iran to say, hey, look, don't target this particular ship. It's not going anywhere else but to India. And you could presumably see a situation like that happening, where you're seeing more and more individual countries that are creating these opening one-on-one discussion channels with Iran in order to protect their own best interests.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard has issued
evacuation warnings right after, obviously, for Gulf energy sites after Israeli strikes on Bushehr. Here we are monitoring the situation once again.
Warnings for several oil and gas facilities across the Gulf. It comes after Israeli strikes hit a key gas facility in Iran's southern Bushehr province. The plant processes natural gas from the South Pars North Dome field, which Iran shares with Qatar. A spokesman for Qatar's...
Yeah, remember, this is a shared gas field, okay? This is a shared gas field with Qatar. It's ridiculous. Like, it's so clearly trying to light the entire region on fire. Like, Israel recognizes that they cannot accomplish their military goals with the current bombing campaigns. Okay? They can't. And that's precisely the reason why they are trying to spread the pain around with no interest whatsoever in what happens to the rest of the world, the energy markets around the globe, basically lighting the region on fire, hoping that America will be stupid enough to put boots on the ground. Why is it bad if Iran loses? First of all, Iran's loss in this situation would mean 93 million people are now living under a failed state. It's devastating for the entire region, right? If that's what you're asking sincerely, in this circumstance, the best possible outcome from this is that America realizes that they got punched in the face, they got a bloody nose, they cut Israel out of the equation and decided to de-escalate and decided to stabilize the region so that Iran does not collapse and turn into a failed state, because 93 million people living in a failed state would be terrifying. But wouldn't a better government be better for the people there? So this is a common question that people ask. While there could be a better government in the future for Iran, right now they're in war, right? So it doesn't matter. The domestic concerns are secondary, utterly irrelevant in this process. The American and Israeli government's interest in Iran is not to bring about a new government anyway, right? It's not to bring about a new government in Iran. It's very clear that they are trying to actively destabilize. Israel's goals here are to actively destabilize Iran, to turn it into a failed state, similar to Libya, so that they are easier to dominate, so that they can't actually present any sort of response to Israel when Israel follows up on their expansionist agenda, right? Are you with AIPAC? What do you think?
Foreign Ministry has condemned Israel's attack as a dangerous and irresponsible step. Well, the IRGC has named several facilities in Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Qatar, saying they will be targeted by military strikes in the coming hours. It said that repeated warnings had previously been issued to Gulf governments, accusing them of pursuing what it described as a dangerous path. We're live this hour with world correspondents in Tehran, Dubai, Ramallah and the White House. We're going to first to Tehran. We're going to speak to Mohammed Val. So we're hearing more about this targeting in the province in southern Iran. What do we know?
Yes, we know that As-Salwiya in Bushehr has been attacked at one of the biggest oil and gas facilities in Iran. And that fire broke out in some sections of that facility. The authorities say they are putting the matter under control and that the area has been evacuated of the workers of the factory. But at the same time, Iran says this is a red line. The armed forces have issued an evacuation order for many facilities in the Gulf region. I'm going to tell you some of those, the names of some of those facilities. Al Jubail Petrochemicals in Saudi Arabia, also the Samarf refinery in Saudi Arabia. You have Ras Gas Lafan in Qatar, and also other facilities in the same countries. So about 5 or 6 oil and gas facilities in the Gulf region are now under threat because the Iranian armed forces have said that in the next few hours they are going to...
Another spider of the exact same kind. just fucking came down on my desk and escaped. I don't know where it went. Remember that one spider that was like dangling over my head? Exact same spider. It's a cellar spider. It's harmless and fine. I don't know what kind of spider it is, but it's not harmless, especially if it fucking crawls up this mic and like tries to bite my face. Okay? Real men don't let spiders come on their desk. Yeah, this one's nutting on my desk. He's saying hello. Cellar spiders don't bite. Okay, that makes it a little bit better. Show it to Kaya. I'm snitching on Maya. Okay, everybody calm down.
Retaliate with attacks on those facilities and that they should be evacuated. Iran has always warned that this war should not take a turn that is going to be destructive and very costly to the region. It has warned the Gulf countries against allowing the Americans to use their airspace and their land and their sea for attacks against Iran. And also, it has always been saying that if Iran's oil facilities are attacked, it will retaliate in kind against the same facilities in the Gulf region.
So let's go to Zain Basravi, who's in Dubai. Zain, we've sorted out the technical problems. Let's talk about the evacuation orders that Iran has issued as a result of that US and Israeli attack on the gas processing plant in southern Iran. What more can you tell us about the evacuation order?
I'll put the helmet on. It'll protect me from the Spidey.
Well, we're 3 weeks into this war, and throughout the course of that time, GCC countries have seen retaliation from Iran in an escalatory manner. Throughout the course of the last 3 weeks, multiple attacks on multiple places, only getting worse. Throughout the course of today, we saw escalating attacks, missiles, drones, and now, by the end of today, it is likely to escalate, perhaps exponentially so, following these attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure. They have vowed they will retaliate, and they have said at least 5 different locations in 3 different countries, in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, will be targeted as per what the Iranian government has put out in terms of a warning. They've said to stay away, to citizens and residents around the following facilities, a warning to stay away from oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar. The Samref refinery in Saudi Arabia, Al Husn gas field in the UAE, Jubail petrochemical complex in Saudi Arabia, the Mesaid petrochemical complex and Mesaid holding company affiliated with Chevron, they say, in Qatar, and Ras Laffan refinery also in Qatar, phases 1 and 2. It's very specific here. We should remind people that at the beginning of the war, in the first 10 days of the war, there were attacks on an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia, on Ras Laffan, the gas refinery, liquid natural gas refinery in Qatar. Iran denied being responsible for those attacks. They said they didn't do it. Now, whether or not you believe them, countries in the region didn't. They still accused Iran of carrying out those attacks. Iran denied it. Here, they're stating very clearly that we intend on targeting these locations and you should leave the area. And they have said, after repeated warnings given by Iran, that it would do this. Their energy infrastructure coming under attack, they're going to mete out a tit-for-tat response. Now, we also have a reaction from Qatar's foreign ministry, the spokesman Majid al-Ansari, reacting to this, saying the Iran South Pars field being targeted by Israel, which extends into Qatar's North gas field. It is a dangerous step. Targeting energy infrastructure is a threat to global energy security, the people of the region, and the environment. A very clear warning, a very clear reaction from Qatar's ministry.
Couldn't this backfire and cause the GCC to pressure the USA to de-escalate? The GCC has no power. As long as this conflict continues, the GCC has no power whatsoever. They're just eating it. They're bullet sponges. As long as this conflict continues, I don't think there's any exit ramp for the GCC at all. I don't think there's any way for the Gulf Cooperative Council states to come back to the United States of America and apply pressure right now. I don't know how much they want to do that to begin with. I don't know. I don't think that they're going to be able to do anything. They're just along for the ride right now, and whatever Israel does will have negative consequences for them. And you're seeing it right now. This is a severe Israeli escalation that a week ago was considered a bridge too far by the American government, if you remember. But they have nothing. They have powerful air forces. They could just turn on U.S. and Israel. That's such a funny take, man. No, they don't. Their air force is not their air force. You understand that the keys can be turned off by the United States of America. When you get weapons from the United States of America, those aren't your weapons. Those are American weapons. Okay? They have the Ghost of Kuwait. Okay, that's true. I'm talking shit about the Ghost of Kuwait. That was very clearly a mistake because the American fighter jets were clearly turning off their transponders while doing aerial bombing missions, which is precisely the reason why the Ghost of Kuwait actually murked 3 of them, something that they do not want to, a mistake that they do not want to repeat regardless. Qatar has 90 modern jets, 60 European. I'm telling you right now, there is no world in which the Qatar, or not even Qatar, but like the Gulf Cooperative Council states could turn around and just like decide to choose to wage war against Israel. It's not going to happen. People are worried about Gulf countries joining the war against Iran and turning into a regional conflict. The U.S. base in the Gulf were rendered inoperable by Iran in a matter of days. What do you think will happen to the native forces, which have even less air defense protecting them? Furthermore, these Gulf countries do not have any weapons that the U.S. hasn't used against Iran. Exactly. Iran is at war with Israel and America right now, which means Iran is at war functionally with the rest of the world, because the rest of the forces that could potentially mobilize against Iran are all backed by American munitions, backed by American weapons, backed by American systems. Some of them have, modest indigenous defense industries, but most of these weapons that could be utilized against Iran are already turned. Hasan, this isn't content. Why do these people care about what your non-expert has to say about all this? You're a cosplayer, bro. Quit yapping. If I look at your comments in the Asmongold chat and I find out that you're glazing his analysis, will you feel a sense of shame or no? Because this is true. I'm not a missile autist. I am not a map autist. I'm a political autist. It's ironic because, yes, I do actually, this is literally my area of expertise when it comes to international relations, when it comes to talking about anti-imperialism. Not only do I have a degree in just this, but also on top of that, I've spent the last decade or so talking about exactly this scenario. So no, in comparison to the average commentator in the United States of America, both to my right and the liberal content creators as well, I do have the specific knowledge to communicate about events such as this one, analyze them, interpret them, and educate the public on them. But on the other hand, you can, chat rent-free, holy baited lol. It basically goes to show exactly what you're trying to get out of this. But contrary to your favorite content creator, I do have a degree in just this, right? This is what I studied. And this is what I've been doing for the past 10 years, which is precisely the reason why my analysis so far has been, oh, Crowder called you a commie cosplayer today, so these people were told what to think about you today? Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, Steven Crowder is a great example of a person who is not very knowledgeable, but simply regurgitates American Enterprise Institute talking points, for example. That's like one great example. He's a bad person overall and not very knowledgeable on these issues as well. They're just, repeating whatever kind of talking points they're getting from, Israeli think tanks. So if you want to hear that, you can go and get that pretty much everywhere else on the internet. This is the one area where you will hear a sober assessment on the way things are going, which is precisely the reason why, if you're confused, a lot of people tune in here. A lot of people tune into this broadcast because they look to like mainstream media. They hear things from the administration. They hear things from the government that is explaining a very different scenario than the one that's unfolding in real time. And that's precisely the reason why a lot of people come here and they're like, can this guy make sense of what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing, as opposed to like what the government is telling me? Because the government is saying, things are great, we're winning the war effort. And yet the situation on the ground shows a very different reality, right? Anyway, as far as the Gulf nation states like waging war against Israel, that's laughable. That'll never happen. And as far as the Gulf nation states joining the battle against Iran, well, Iran is basically fighting against them already. So they don't have a massive force to mobilize anyway. They don't have massive forces that they could possibly mobilize. It would be laughable to expect that like the Saudi military would do boots on the ground military warfare in Iran. That's even more laughable than the American troops landing on Iranian soil and conducting any sort of military operation. So from the Iranian perspective, they're already fighting against every single one of these countries because they're fighting against America. America dominates every single one of these countries. American weapons are held in the hands of the militaries that they could potentially activate, right? It's not going to happen.
Foreign affairs there.
Zain, it's worth remembering, of course, that apparently there are Gulf countries meeting in Riyadh later to discuss the security challenges that the region is facing. What more do we know about that meeting?
Well, in the beginning of the day when the meeting was announced, it was really going to be addressing the last few weeks, a status quo kind of.
Can the GCC states deploy an embargo like they've done in the past? Well, currently, Iran is already doing a de facto embargo, which is why I think the GCC states adding into that embargo would mean nothing. I mean, it would increase the pain in the energy markets, which are incredibly fake, right? It's more fake than it has ever been. But adding on to that is not really going to do anything because like there is already a de facto embargo that is enforced by the Iranian blockade.
Continuous bombardment of these Gulf Arab cities as far as the retaliation. But just to illustrate the day's events, how dynamic this conflict is, there's been targeted assassinations, attacks on energy infrastructure, Israel saying they're going to kill anyone in the Iranian leadership that they want to, Iran saying that they're going to use more potent and precise weapons and more heavy weapons to carry out its retaliatory attacks on whoever they deem necessary, wherever they deem necessary. The escalation just in the last 10 or 12 hours has been exponential. So this meeting that Riyadh has called, where foreign ministers of Gulf Arab countries, other Arab countries, Islamic countries, was with the aim of further
Aren't we also pushing down on those markets as much as we can while denying it? There was something about that recently, but I can't remember. Yes. Currently, as it stands, the oil futures don't actually match the limited supply. And there is going to come a point where like the lack of commodities is going to catch up with whatever the market manipulation that's taking place. Because if you're pricing as though 100% of production is still taking place or 85% of production is still taking place when only, let's say, 75% of production is taking place, then eventually people are going to run out of fucking oil, right? And when that happens, I suspect that the markets will correct, and that correction will be really damaging. It's very interesting, though, like watching the oil markets move in a way that is not anchored around the real amount of barrels that are passing through has been truly interesting, because this is the one area where like you have to abide by the fundamentals. You're kind of you can't lie about how many barrels of oil are readily available, right? Oil has inelastic demand. Oil is a commodity that you just can't lie about. This is not like a complex financial vehicle, a tool that you can just say is going to be fine in the future. You can't like price in. You can't engage in like speculatory pricing when it comes to a hard thing that is finite and also necessary. So it's not going to happen. They're trying their very best. Donald Trump certainly seems to think he can just out-yap the lack of readily available oil. And he has seen some success in this endeavor, but there is a physical limit to how much you can manipulate the speculative. I say speculatory. Okay, speculative. There's a physical hard limit to how much you can engage in complex financial engineering. Given the scale of the shock, many people are understandably surprised that the price of oil hasn't gone even higher. But as Main FT reported, this Financial Times reported yesterday, the oil market's idiosyncrasies is arguably obscuring the distress. It's important to remember that oil isn't actually one homogeneous product. It comes in a lot of different densities, forms, and sulfuricides. And therefore has a myriad different uses, buyers, prices in different parts of the world. You got the sour crude, you got the heavy crude, you got the light, beautiful oil that comes out of the fracking in the United States of America. Heavy crude is utilized for jet fuel and things like that. The type of crude that is being restricted right now is different than the type of crude that's available in the United States of America, for example. They're sweet and they're sour. There's so much to learn about this, okay? The two main and commonly quoted crude oil benchmarks is Brent and the West Texas Intermediate are primarily for North Sea and Texas/Gulf of Mexico oil, respectively. So when people say oil is at X or Y, what they're usually talking about is the per barrel price of a futures contract for delivery of Brent crude oil in the coming month. However, the jumps in Brent and WTI, while large and alarming, actually understate the degree of dislocation, as the Financial Times Verify Ratcliffe highlighted yesterday evening. This is why the Financial Times is one of the more reliable outlets out there. It's the one newspaper that can't lie. Okay? Because of the people that read it. Because the purpose that it serves is to educate people who are making decisions on the market. So you can't get away with the shit that like Wall Street Journal gets away with or the shit that The Economist gets away with. Okay? So oil buyers are scrambling to replace supplies from the Gulf, causing price leaps for grades around the world from Norway to Kazakhstan and driving crude trade in Oman to a record more than $150 a barrel. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz due to the war in the Middle East has severed about a fifth of the world's oil production from the global markets. Remember, inelastic demand, necessary resource for all productive forces. We know what it looks like when oil is restricted. Cuba is a great example of this. Their energy grid collapsed yesterday. They were able to bring it back to life. But understand that like when you don't have oil, you don't have a functioning energy grid in the worst case scenario. Okay? When you lose a fifth of the world's entire oil production, when it's removed from the global markets, all of a sudden, you're going to start seeing, especially in the Asian markets, rolling blackouts and things of that nature once their strategic reserves also dry up. The goal here, obviously, is to stop this war of choice from continuing until it gets to that completely chaotic situation. Okay? The growing disruption to supplies has driven a number of regional price benchmarks to all-time highs, even as global marker Brent has fallen back to just above $100 a barrel after jumping to a nearly $120 in the early stages of the Iran war. It's sheer physical scarcity driving prices, David Fye, chief economist at Argus Media. The price of a barrel of oil in Oman, which exports from ports outside the Strait of Hormuz, soared to nearly $154 on Tuesday, driven by intense competition for the small volumes while still leaving the Middle East. By the way, there's also another entry point or another choke point that could be closed. And that is, of course, the Ansar Allah movement that's under the Ansar Allah movement's control. It's not as easy to close that choke point as it is to close the Strait of Hormuz, of course, but the Ansar Allah movement could effectively create a de facto blockade in Bab el-Mandeb, which is the entry point into the Red Sea or the exit point of the Red Sea. So once the Houthis are activated, which they've said they're waiting for their time to get in, which is not as small as the Strait of Hormuz, of course. much more difficult to. It's much more difficult. Yeah, I know. He sent this to me. That's funny. All right, let's continue for now. It'd be a lot more difficult to control, but it would be punishing. It would be it would be very difficult to pass oil tankers safely if the Houthis start, taking pot shots at these ships. So even then, if the Houthis get active, I mean, this will further collapse the global energy markets. Just to hammer home the point, here are the charts of the long-term prices of Dubai and Omani oil, which have now exploded higher than the infamous 2008 spike. The Oman benchmark has hit a record 173.24 today, at least according to the LSEG data that Alphaville has access to. Yeah. This is the other choke point. Yemen has access to this choke point. And this is obviously the Strait of Hormuz, much smaller than Bab el-Mandeb, but once again, very difficult for commercial traffic to pass through if you have a militant state that is ready to try and stop it and implement a blockade. The Red Sea isn't as impactful as there is a way around, just takes longer. The Gulf oil has nowhere to go with the Hormuz block. No, you're wrong about that. Because right now, the Red Sea is incredibly impactful. Because 15% of all of the oil that is refined by Saudi Aramco can get to a port on the Red Sea side. The goal for all of the 20% of the world's entire oil and gas comes from this little area. Okay, that's just where it is. They can't get out of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is controlling it. But what they could do, technically, there are some pipelines. What they could do is, and they have started doing this, Saudi Arabia started doing this, I believe it's about up to 15% of their overall capacity that they could flow back to the Red Sea. They have a port on the Red Sea side that would still load up right here, somewhere around here, and would go down the Red Sea and have to cross through Bab el-Mandeb. And they are doing this right now, for the record. Those ships will go through here, and then we'll flow energy to the Asian markets if they are able to successfully cross Bab el-Mandeb, another choke point. So they can go through the Suez Canal? No. We're talking about the energy that's going to the Asian markets, chatter. What are you talking about? They're not going to go through here. There is no entry point into the Asian markets if you pass your oil through the Suez Canal. Bab. It's not Bob. Okay, whatever. You can't, the Suez Canal is for Europe and for the Western world. If we're talking about the Eastern world, if we're talking about the Asian markets, no, this is a workaround that is incredibly costly regardless. And it's just mega tankers can't get through Suez. Well, when you're desperate, you go around Africa. That is an incredible trip. It's not going to happen. You might as well not ship oil at all at that point. What are you talking? Guys, look at a map. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but what do you mean go around Africa to get to Asia? You're saying here, high resolution map of the world. Let's open it and try to show you. Okay. Hold on. High resolution world map. Hold on. Here it is. Okay. So this is a high resolution world map. Okay. So you got, where is let's make this like a little bit bigger. Okay. you got the Strait of Hormuz here, okay? And you got the Bab el-Mandeb here, okay? Oil is passing through. I can't even fucking find my thing here. Oil is passing through only 15% of the production. Only 15% of production is passing through these pipelines, and they're getting loaded up here, okay? What your suggestion is, like, this is already a choke point and much harder to reach the Asian markets from this side. Normally, they go through here, go through the Strait of Hormuz, and reach the Asian markets this way, okay? What you're as a contingency, some of the oil that passes through the Saudi Aramco pipelines can go to this port and then go through the choke point between Djibouti and Yemen and reach the Asian markets that way. What you're suggesting is that they go through here, go through the Suez Canal, okay, get into the Mediterranean Sea, go through this, like, make the journey like this. Okay, it's possible, but the economic damage and the likelihood of this scenario is catastrophic. You're talking about like 10x the travel time. You're talking at that point. We're talking about fucking like that's an act of desperation. So much so that it's virtually impossible. This scenario is so ridiculous. You're talking about like $300 barrels, I guess. Like, I don't know. That's not just like a limited detour, right? Plus, you also have other restrictions in the Suez Canal as well. The Suez Canal is shallow, and from what I understand, mega tankers have a hard time going through it as well, or can't go through it. So you would have to like you would have you would have like severe restrictions anyway. Super carrier vessel oil carriers are too big for the Suez Canal, and that doesn't even include the ultra carrier vessels. Like there's no way that you can make this trip while also, you know, financially engineering around it, so it's like still something that like a trip that can be conducted, and you can have
disruption.
You can have like a normal stabilized energy markets. It's cooked. It's cooked.
In the Strait of Hormuz are forcing shipping companies to
That's just wrong. You absolutely can make the trip via Suez. Okay, you're the oil nerd. That's 10 to 15 extra days of travel time is absolutely doable. What would it have to get to for them to conduct a 10 to 15 day extra travel time with only 15% of the just the Saudi oil? Okay, and that is if Iran doesn't blow up the pipeline. What do you think would happen to the price of a fucking the price of a barrel of oil? It's just not economically feasible, as opposed to, like, you're talking about 10 to 15 days of extra travel time. It's correct that the biggest carriers can't go via the Suez, but the smaller ones can. Yes, I already talked about that. The biggest carriers can't go through the Suez Canal. Smaller ones can. So you're now chopping it up into smaller carriers. That adds to the price. Then on top of that, the 10 to 15 day travel time and the expenditures of that additional travel time also raises the price of the barrel. But sea travel doesn't actually add much to the cost. Sea travel is basically free. Okay, what would that look like is what I'm saying. My question for you, my oil autist. My question to you is, what do you think will happen?
We think how goods and energy move around the world. Now, that's where other shipping routes may come in.
By the way, there is also so much that is anchored. There is so much that is anchored around oil, everything in our economy is around oil. We are highly reliant on this finite good. That's the whole purpose of like moving into the realm of renewables, right? Or at least trying to do so in order to maintain some kind of energy independence in the future when this shit inevitably runs out. But as it stands currently, without oil, you can't do air travel. Like once these limitations start hitting the markets, because like you can financially engineer this. You can financially engineer this. You can also have your strategic reserves to be deployed, right? Be released for times exactly like this one. But eventually you're going to run out. And when you fucking run out, then the cost of travel is going to increase dramatically. The cost of commerce is going to increase dramatically. The cost of all goods is going to increase dramatically. No more airplane travel. Now you have massive economic collapse because people simply can't afford jet fuel. Companies can't afford jet fuel. Jet fuel price goes up. That's reflected in the consumer price that people are paying for air travel. Now people are not traveling as much. Remember what happened during COVID. And once people can't travel as much, then these companies are on the verge of insolvency. They're bankrupt. They start closing. Jobs are lost in the process. First, there's a reduction in the workforce. Then there's like employees that are furloughed. Then employees are fired altogether. It will have a devastating domino effect on the entire the global economy.
Instead of moving through the Gulf and onto the Mediterranean via the Suez Canal, some vessels are taking the much longer journey around the southern tip of Africa, the Cape of Good Hope. But the longer route increases travel by 3,000 to 5,000 nautical miles. That's 10 to 14 extra days of travel. And that means higher fuel costs. In total, this detour adds about $1 million in extra costs per trip. Now, while port authorities here at the Cape Town port say they're ready to handle the additional traffic, ships that may take the Cape route are not stopping at these ports. It would take up too much time and cost more. The rerouting might offer some benefits to African ports, but that will be far short of the extra costs for shipping companies and their clients. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Cape Town.
Yeah, it doesn't add virtually no cost. Of course it adds to the cost. It's not undoable. It's just not economically feasible. Breaking, the U.S. is accumulating forces for a weeks-long operation to take control of the Strait of Hormuz, according to Israeli assessments on Khan News. Unbelievably stupid. Going up the escalation ladder, I think it's going to lead... There's only two options out of this, man. I swear to God. Either America is brought to heel if they continue down this escalation trap, or Iran completely collapses and it's a failed state and it has devastating impact. It has devastating impact in the region, which still renders commerce in the region unfeasible regardless. Do you understand? Because like when Iran is not stable, when it's a failed state, that's going to take at least a decade to solve. If you can ever solve it at all. 93 million people. You can't have the country that is slammed on one side of the Strait of Hormuz turn into Libya. This is functionally the same as Israel deploying a nuke. Yeah, for my Eurocuck chatters, kiss your European summer travel season goodbye. Global average jet fuel price rose plus 82.8%. Iranian missiles can reach the Suez Lull. Imagine if they fire it while there's a ton of traffic. There's no reason for Iran to strike at to Suez at all. At least for the time being. There's no reason whatsoever to do that. That would literally That would frustrate European partners even further. I mean, it's something that they can do. They have limited capabilities of reaching there. It's not the same as like holding the Strait of Hormuz, obviously, but that is like, what the fuck? How are you under 250K viewers, HasanAbi? This is big shit. Because everyone's on fucking autopilot, man. Everyone's on autopilot. They don't understand how these things, they only respond to like immediate action where they're like, whoa, this is a big deal. Let me go tune into the HasanAbi broadcast. But like a lot of this stuff, especially here in the United States, is very far away from us, both as far as like physical proximity, but certainly far away from us because it's considered unthinkable. Like the American government will protect us. But the collapse is happening in real time. And it's, I wouldn't even say it's a slow burn collapse. It's actually much faster, much more accelerated than I could have ever imagined. But Americans are just like sleepwalking into complete collapse of the energy markets. It's very interesting. Just to be clear, these crazy Gulf oil prices reflect how some Asian refiners are simply desperate to secure the crude they need and are happy to pay it. What it takes to get it. Norwegian oil naturally takes longer to ship. Meanwhile, the current Brent and WTI contracts are for May delivery when there should be a lot of supply coming from various strategic reserves, leading to a big divergence. They therefore reflect different oil markets, but that doesn't mean that the Gulf oil price craziness isn't worrying. These benchmarks are directly exposed to export disruptions and therefore capture marginal scarcity more effectively than the Atlantic-linked crudes, JP Morgan's analyst argued in a note yesterday. They pointed out that Asia is already feeling the crunch. JP Morgan's emphasis in bold below. Early signs of demand destruction are emerging in Asia as product prices surge and spot barrels become prohibitively expensive. Timing effects further